Saya akan menggunakan bahasa Indonesia sebentar. Jadi bagi rekan-rekan semuanya yang bisa menyalakan kamera, kami mohon untuk dapat menyalakan kameranya, sebab nanti kita akan foto bersama dengan background yang bagus ini biar kelihatan lebih kompak seperti itu. Baik, mohon izin saya akan memulai kegiatan pagi ini. So, Prof. Irina, can we start this sharing session? Thank you for joining us. So, good day, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you. So the Honorable Dr. Trina Fizzanty, Head of the Research Center for Education, National Research and Innovation Agency. The Honorable Professor Irina Lyublinskaya from Teacher College, Columbia University, United States. And to all our esteemed participants who are joining us online this morning, Indonesian time. So first, let us give thanks to everyone who has joined us here, so which have allowed us together for this very special event, a sharing session titled AI Literacy Across Curriculum and its Application. So let me introduce myself. My name is Egi. I am Junior Researcher at the Research Center for Education BRIN, and I will be your moderator for today's event. So ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, as part of Indonesian culture, I would like to invite all of us to observe a moment of silence for prayer according to our faith. So please begin your prayer. Amen. Thank you. Next, to officially open this session, we will now hear an opening speech from the Head of Research Center for Education BRIN, Dr. Trina Fizzanty. Dr. Trina, the time and the virtual stage are yours.
Thank you, Mas Egi, our moderator. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to everyone here in Indonesia, and also good evening to our distinguished speaker, Professor Irina Lyublinskaya from Teachers College, Columbia University in USA. So on behalf of the Research Center for Education at BRIN, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to today's sharing session with the title AI Literacy Across Curriculum and its Applications. So this is an important moment for us to learn, reflect, and also exchange ideas on how AI can shape the future of education. So we are deeply honored to have Professor Irina with us as an expert in artificial intelligence and curriculum development. Her extensive experience in the United States will give us valuable perspectives on how AI can be meaningfully integrated into teaching and learning. So at BRIN, this discussion is particularly timely because over the last 2 years, AI and education have been positioned as one of our main national research programs. So we believe AI will hold the potential not only to improve the quality of our teaching, but also to create inclusive learning models and prepare our young generation for the skills and challenges of the 21st century. So yet we also recognize that the AI raises complex questions about equity, ethics, and curriculum transformation. So of course, the US context is very different from Indonesia. The US benefit from being an advanced economy with strong educational system, resources, and infrastructure. But rather than we copying, we want to learn from this experience to inspire our own solution. So the challenge for us is how to adapt and co-create approaches that are relevant to Indonesia priorities and also realities. So co-creation means collaboration with researchers, educators, policymakers, and also the communities. So working hand in hand to ensure that the AI enhances, not undermines, the core values of education. So as we listen to our speaker today, I also expect that you reflect on three important questions for Indonesia future. First, how can AI be harnessed to strengthen the quality and inclusivity of our education system? The second, in what ways should curriculum design evolve to prepare future generation with new skills and critical thinking? And third, how can we ensure that technology enhances rather than replaces the human values that education must uphold? So before we begin, let me express my deepest appreciation to our moderator who will guide today's discussion, Mas Egi, and to Mr. Soeharto, who has maintained contact with Professor Irina, and also to Mr. Zainuddin, our program coordinator, for his effort in making this session possible. So with that, I extend my warmest thanks to Professor Irina for joining us across time zone, and to all of you for participating in this important dialogue. I wish us all a fruitful, inspiring, and forward-looking discussion. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Trina Fizzanty, for your insightful remarks and the guidance. So everyone, so please, before we jump into the next session, we will take a picture together. So please make sure you keep the best of your smile in front of the camera. Okay. So my friend Adila, you there? So please help us to take a screen capture. So I'll count backward. 3, 2, 1. Cheese. Oh, we saw someone joining us. All right. Mbak Uswatun, can you please help us to take a screen capture?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Let us count backward again. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Thank you. Your smile have made my day. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the core of our event, the presentation by our distinguished speaker, Professor Irina. She's the leading academic from Teacher College Columbia University. She's also professor of mathematics at education, and she taught in the School of University Mathematics and Science for more than 35 years. She is the recipient of various awards, including Radio Shack or Attendee Prize for teaching excellence in mathematics, science, and computer science. Professor Irina, basically the author of the book that we are going to discuss for today. The book is a valuable resource for educators, offering a framework and practical ways to integrate AI literacy into various subjects. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Professor Irina. The screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Egi, and thank you for inviting me and to be here today. So as we said, let's not waste any time. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to discuss the important topic of AI literacy in education. So here we go, just making sure that everyone can see.
Yep.
So, all good? Okay, great. I'd like to mention that I'm using a technology platform called Nearpod, which allows everyone, if you wish, to participate more interactively and to have also access to whatever resources I'm going to be showing. I put that link in the chat. So if you would like to be able to access the resources while we get to those points, all you need to do is to click on a link and then just join as a guest. And that will allow you to see the presentation also on your own screen and access resources. Let me go ahead. Here is the plan of our talk today, of our presentation, of my presentation, and also hopefully that would lead us to a really rich discussion. So I'd like to start with just a very short introduction on like why we developed this particular framework and what was our goals. Discuss in more details the pedagogical framework for AI literacy integration. Then we'll talk about connecting AI literacy concepts to K-12 disciplinary practices. And finally, I'd like to share the AI literacy for educators course and like some resources for that course that we developed to prepare future teachers to integrate AI literacy into the classrooms. So let's talk a little bit about background and this large research project rationale. I don't think I need to emphasize that AI is becoming more and more prevalent and really reaches all the aspects of our lives. And as it is reshaping the future, it also transforming education, whether we want it or not, which means that teachers and students have to understand what AI is and really understand what are implications of this very different technology for our lives and for our ways we learn and we teach. As the AI, as we are embracing AI in all aspects of our lives, there is 4 key perspectives that emerge that deal specifically with AI literacy education. The recognition of AI's growing impact, the emphasis on foundational skills in AI literacy, the importance of teacher training to achieve success in AI literacy, and the pursuit of equity and inclusion in AI literacy. Now, before we get any further, I want to make sure that we clearly understand the terminology that I'll be using in this talk. So when we talk about AI and education, there is few different ways we talk about it. As we say AI education, that means, and that's the way I'm going to be using it, it is a process of teaching and learning about AI at a deep level that focuses on becoming an AI expert or understand deeply the technical aspects of AI. If we talk about AI in education, we're talking how AI tools can be used to enhance teaching and learning process. In other words, it's focusing on leveraging AI technology within educational contexts. And then our talk today is really focusing on AI literacy education, which is sub-area of general AI education, and AI literacy education focusing on the critical literacy today for everyone, not just for experts, to understand, interact, and evaluate, critically reflect on AI applications, which should be done responsibly and ethically. So my talk really is focusing on AI literacy education because this is something that needs to be brought in to everyone, whether computer science specialist or not, for all teachers as well as for all students. So in our study, of course, Russia now dealing with a lot of factors and research that has been done. So because the learning technologies and learning sciences improved so much, the range of concepts that students can explore in the classrooms, for example, with smart robotic systems and machine learning platforms, significantly increased. The AI literacy today is a new digital literacy. It's a critical one. So it needs to be introduced to students not through a specific computer science class, but across different disciplines, which brings us to the need to develop AI literacy curricula that expand beyond computer science. And we start seeing these examples of those curricula in the literature. But that brings the necessity to make sure that teachers of all disciplines become AI literate. So they gain knowledge and skills necessary to integrate AI literacy into their teaching, which means it affects the way we prepare teachers. Teachers not only need to become AI literate, but they also need to develop knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, in order to bring AI literacy concepts to their students. So this was the rationale for us to develop the pedagogical framework. And that led to the following research agenda for this particular area of research. So as of today, we developed pedagogical framework for AI literacy integration into K-12 curriculum. And in order to validate that framework and also apply this framework, we develop tools for teachers so that they can use the pedagogical framework to integrate AI literacy across different grade levels and different disciplines. In order to support teachers, we also developed instructional examples of how AI literacy can be integrated into core K-12 disciplines at elementary, middle, and high school levels. And we developed the AI literacy for educators course for pre-service and in-service teachers. Currently, we are implementing and testing this particular course. We testing and validating, develop instructional tools and research instruments. We've completed a data collection in 3 case studies where this particular course was implemented in China, in Kazakhstan, and in the United States to evaluate impact of such course on pre-service teachers' AI literacy, attitudes, understanding and perceptions about ethical use of AI, and pedagogical knowledge for integration of AI literacy into teaching and learning. This is still ongoing study, so I'm not going to be really focusing on, we're still in the process of analyzing data and collecting more data, but I'll be focusing on the part which it says here completed in my talk today. So, pedagogical framework for AI literacy integration. Let's talk about theoretical foundations and then how we develop this framework. So, as a theoretical foundations, we chose 3 different frameworks to address content, structure, and inclusiveness of the curriculum. So the first framework, 5 Big Ideas in AI initiative, it is a US-based initiative that was funded federally to develop and define AI concepts, essential knowledge and skills necessary of K-12 students. The design thinking process, we used a structure for the approach to integrate AI literacy. It is based on human-centered interaction, which is, of course, important when we think about human-AI interaction. And then Science of Learning and Development framework is a framework that provides particular guidelines, principles, and guidelines to make sure that curriculum is inclusive and diverse and the equity of the curriculum. I'm going to go a little bit more details about each of those foundations. So 5 Big Ideas in AI defined the following ideas. Perception, which defines core concepts of how AI use sensors and algorithms to see and hear data and then process this data. The second big idea is representation and reasoning, which is focusing on core concepts on how AI transforms the sensory data into data structures that then can be used to reason and make predictions, make decisions by computer. The big idea, free learning or machine learning, is defining core concepts and skills students need to know and understand how AI learns from data and how AI can improve its own performance. The big idea 4, natural interaction, deals with the way the AI technology is designed in order to naturally interact with humans in a way humans interact. Of course, all of this is ongoing processes, but we're focusing on the concepts here. And finally, big idea 5 is idea of societal impact of AI, that AI has a significant implication, both positive and negative, for society, including education and understanding of within that societal impact, we're talking about advantages of AI technologies as well as bias, as well as transparency, as well as ethics. So these are the ideas that come under this particular aspect of big ideas. This particular initiative developed guidelines that defined very specific learning outcomes, essential understandings for every student at 4 grade band levels, K through 12, K through second, lower elementary, 3 through 5, upper elementary, middle school, 6 through 8, and high school, 9 through 12. And it was developed to serve as a framework that can assist people who develop standards, curriculum developers. It's organized by those grade bands. And like I'm going to show you specifically, if you're joined Nearpod, you can click on this link. It will take you to the website that provides this is a website for this particular initiative, and for each big idea it provides these grade band progressions. You should be able to see this. These are PDF documents that could be easily downloaded, and as you see, they are structured around specific core concepts like abstraction, symbolic representation here, the data structures, feature vectors, and it defines what expected from students at different grade bands. So this was the structure or framework that we use to define the content of AI literacy, content of our pedagogical framework, but also content of what needs to be brought in to the classrooms as well as to the teachers. Moving on, design thinking process. Design thinking process is part of a larger framework on human-computer interaction. And there are different variations of this particular process that we use to structure the way we recommend to integrate AI literacy into curriculum. We used 5-step process that deals with empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Empathize really focusing on understanding the needs and problems of the people or within the problem-solving process of the audience that the design is made for. The define is a step where students are defining the problems that they're solving. It ideate, they generate a variety of solutions to the problem, and analyze them to pick up the few most efficient or effective solutions that they then prototype, where they can build physical or digital prototypes of their solutions. And final step is testing the prototypes, where also in which this step also includes the feedback process, which could be both digital from technology systems or peer feedback or teacher feedback. And then science of learning and development framework, a very important framework developed based on learning sciences and how children learn, that provides guidelines for developing classroom environment that is safe, where students feel that they belong. So it's a feelings respected, which can reduce stress to promote a student learning. It's also environment that is filled with rich learning experiences and knowledge development, where students are engaged in active learning and challenging experiences. The students develop skills, habits, and mindset, growth mindset, in order to increase students' capacity for learn. And it's environments that provide support systems, which is especially critical when we start integrating AI technologies into the classroom, and to support students in that environment. So these 3 particular frameworks we used to develop pedagogical frameworks. So what pedagogical here really means that it's about integration of AI literacy. So it is a framework for teachers to bring AI literacy into their classrooms. So pedagogical framework development took several steps and some time. And we followed pretty standard approach, where you identify keywords that first to what you're looking for in the literature. We conducted a thorough literature search through like well-known databases of the literature and selected a limited number of sources that were relevant to our specific focus, like pedagogy, AI literacy, that were credible, peer-reviewed, were recent within last decade, and which had diversity of perspectives. We wanted not just focus on K-12, but for the perspective, we also looked at higher education. We look across different international arenas and focus on research from various countries. After that, we did content analysis in order to extract key AI literacy competencies and align AI literacy competencies and learning outcomes. Then, following that, we conducted thematic analysis so that we can identify recurring themes and patterns related to AI literacy and extract the components that became components of our pedagogical framework. And then finally, we mapped the AI literacy competencies that we identified into Bloom's taxonomy of learning domains like cognitive, psychomotor, and affective to support teachers in developing objectives for instructional planning. And as part of that, we also developed assessment of AI literacy framework as part of the bigger pedagogical framework, again, to support assessment and development of our learning objectives. So I'm just showing two visuals for our pedagogical framework. Of course, it has in our book that I'll provide link at the end. We provide much more details and descriptions. So we identified three main components of pedagogical framework: design, create, and reflect. The first two components, design and create, relate to design thinking process and cover 5 steps of that process, while reflect relates to developing, mostly focusing on the inclusiveness, ethics, responsibility, respect. So you can see how this relationship in this diagram. For each of the components, we identified the critical literacies, AI literacies, that need to be integrated into the classroom teaching. And again, I emphasize integration is across different disciplines. We're not just focusing on computer science or technology classes. So during design component, we expect students to develop competency in problem framing and idea generations, and at the same time critically evaluate AI applications. During create component, we expect students to develop competency in prototyping and testing solutions, and also applying AI to solve real-world problems, and or plan how it could be applied to solve real-world problems. And during reflect component, we expect students to develop competency in ethical awareness in AI implications, and understand that there is need for responsible use of AI technologies for real-world applications, and that the collaborative work is very important when we are working with AI technologies. So let me unpack a little more those competencies, and as I mentioned earlier, connect them to learning outcomes. So when we talk about problem framing and idea generations, we expect students to demonstrate proficiency in the initial design process, which should include empathetic understanding of needs. We expect students to define authentic problems and generate innovative ideas. The learning outcomes for the critically evaluating AI applications competencies include specifically students' develop abilities to evaluate critically and apply AI technologies, which means assessing the effectiveness, accuracy, perspective, credibility in various applications and contexts. In prototyping and testing solutions competencies, students have to be able to transform their ideas that they generated into a tangible prototypes. And when I talk here about tangible prototypes, I do not mean physical objects. It also could be a solution to a problem, or mathematical model, or a critical essay in language arts. So we're going broader in terms of K-12 education here. We also think that they should be able to decompose, they systematically test whatever the prototypes or solutions they're thinking about. They have to have a specific criteria. They need to be able to analyze their results, extract essential information, and go in that all through iterative process to improve their solutions. For this applying AI to solve real-world problems competency, we expect students to be able to analyze problems and identify problems that are suitable for AI, to break those problems apart, to apply data analysis, abstract modeling, algorithmic thinking, and developing AI solutions within the specific context. And then for reflect components, the developing ethical awareness in AI means that students should be able to think critically about ethical applications of AI technologies and evaluate impact of those technologies on society, which definitely includes issues such as bias, discrimination, privacy. Finally, when we're looking at the final competency here, responsible use of AI technologies of real-world applications, we're looking at students' use of AI technologies intentionally and responsibly, which also should include strategies for managing personal data, maintaining digital privacy and security, and sustaining a culture of innovation and change. So again, these are broad learning outcomes. Today, like through this presentation, I will show, demonstrate to you some examples where you see how they can be applied directly to specific disciplines. So, but first, let's talk about how we take our DCR model. DCR stands for Design, Create, Reflect, and map it into the Bloom's taxonomy of domains of learning. So at the design component, at the two steps of design component, empathize and define and ideate, we're really focusing mostly on cognitive outcomes and somewhat on effective learning outcomes. At the create component, we're focusing on cognitive and psychomotor outcomes at the prototype, and cognitive and affective at test stage. And at the reflect component, again, it's cognitive and affective. So if you notice, the cognitive means understanding of what AI is going across all the steps of the pedagogical framework. The teachers need to incorporate or design tasks for students and lessons that incorporate understanding of AI at all steps of this process, while affective and psychomotor comes at depending on what step of the process it is. So that was theoretical base. Sorry that it's short, not very detailed, but we do have a limited amount of time. And I definitely wanted to look at applications and demonstrate how it could be used in a classroom. So let's talk about how we can connect AI literacy concepts and disciplinary practice. And these connections are the basis for AI literacy integration across curriculum. And again, I want to emphasize that we work with pre-service and in-service teachers, so my focus is really on K-12. However, it could be easily extended beyond to college level, but we're not going to talk about it. So I'm going to briefly comment on examples of connecting 4 core areas of K-12 curriculum, such as math, science, language arts, and social studies. So here, as you notice, I am demonstrating, like in the first column, you see like big ideas in AI, which I mentioned. So there's the 3 big ideas here, right? In the second column, I'm referring mathematical practices that are defined by Common Core standards in the United States, but they are common mathematical practices, I'm sure, across various nations. And then the connections that could be used to integrate those AI concepts, and by that expose students to understanding AI concepts and develop AI literacy into mathematics classroom. And we will look at lesson examples as well after we go through this. So if we think about practice of modeling of mathematics and big idea of perception, right? How computer sees and hears data, then we know that AI converts real world data into mathematical structures. Like sensing, for example, temperature becomes electric signal, which becomes numbers for the computer. Mathematics, on the other hand, uses algorithms to extract features, to look for patterns. And so those patterns are what machines are using when they take sensory data and process it to perceive that data. So in that sense, we can use idea of mathematical modeling that transforms data into structure and explain to students how AI interprets data into data structures without even using technology. So that this connection helps us to bring AI concepts of perception. In learning, machine learning, we can example here is mathematical practice of make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. So both AI learning and this mathematics practice, how mathematicians work or our students work, involves cycles of analyzing information, trying solutions, and then refining the approach based on the outcome. So we again see here a parallel processes which are similar between what mathematics does and what AI does. And so if students analyze data and look for patterns, and learn from those patterns to apply them and make predictions, for example. Same way machine learning models processes data to identify trends and making predictions. Again, this analogy helps students to understand AI concept of learning through working mathematically. The last example here is a natural interaction. Natural interaction, we're connecting here is an example to constructing viable arguments and critiquing reasoning. So natural interactions is about AI being developed in order to communicate with humans, interpret and understand information, like for example, in the form of language, to formulate a logical response. So similar like chatbot may generate a coherent answer. Students have to create clear and well-supported mathematical arguments. And when they critique reasoning of others, they, again, similar to AI system, they have to analyze the input, like, for example, a proof presented by a peer student, and to identify flaws and inconsistencies before responding. Let's take a look at examples of connecting science and engineering practices and big ideas in AI. So, well, perception is very straightforward. Perception is using sensors, right, to get the data and then convert them to something that AI understands. Same idea here, like in science, students may be asking questions, defining problems, and in order to do that, they have to gather data from the real world, usually using sensors, whether it's human senses or devices that collect data, or so it could be like a sensor, right? And then analyze that information to identify the problem or question they may be asking about. So both a person and an AI in this case define problems based on either observations or sensory information. So there's a very direct connection here. If we look at representation and reasoning and the practice of constructing explanations and designing solutions, again, both science practice and AI practice is about creating structured representations of whatever a problem we're solving. In science, it could be a diagram or data, a model, and use logical reasoning to move from the representation to a final conclusion, like a prediction or problem solution. If we look at the big idea 5, societal impact, in science, we have a practice how we obtaining, evaluating, communicating information. So again, it's about critical rigorous communication and a critical evaluation of information, which is essential for scientists, engineers, and also essential and crucial for AI and understanding AI societal impact. So the skills that students learn in their science classrooms directly applicable for them to understand why we need to evaluate AI's impact on society and articulate what methods AI is using and evaluate its role. Social studies practices. So social studies are history, economics, geography, those kind of subjects in the school curriculum. So in representation and reasoning can be connected very strongly to, for example, practice of developing claims and using evidence. For example, students may be using maps, timelines in history, right, to represent and analyze complex historical information. Similarly, AI system can use specific data structures and algorithms to organize and reason of information. Again, we see a parallel here. For machine learning, we looked at that with another discipline. We can connect here with developing questions and planning inquiries. It's an iterative process that students, when they develop their questions and planning inquiries, same as AI models use an iterative process of learning. Students may learn something, refine their questions if they encounter new evidence, and plan their knowledge and go in those iterative cycles. And again, that parallels the AI process. Natural interaction and communicating conclusions and taking informed actions again goes very closely together, as AI is attempting to communicate effectively and meaningfully and develop common sense reasoning. The same is going on when we're trying to communicate conclusions in, let's say, economics or geography. Finally, language arts practices. So in language arts, there are different levels of practice. It's about speaking, listening, writing, reading. So again, very closely relates to the way, for example, large language models are working. We'll see example of elementary school lesson in just a few minutes, where students may learn about words that have multiple meanings, and it's a practice of clarifying unknown words using contextual clues or references. And same way AI learns within the context, it labels data within the context to really understand the meaning of the text. In a natural interaction, AI communicates with us. It's a practice in the language arts students' practice of speaking and listening. It always involves interpreting and responding to language, parallels between human interaction and AI interaction. Both require clear, logical, and contextually appropriate response. And again, in societal impact, really closely related to reading informational texts, for example, where students have to evaluate critically information that's given in the text, and that requires development of critical skills, which also required for evaluating impact of AI on a society. So let's take a look at some lesson examples. So I picked one example per discipline, and you may notice that some of those examples really relates to what we just talked about in each discipline. So the first one is the example of a middle school lesson about measures of central tendency. So I'm going to open actual document in a few, just a second, but I want to briefly. So in this case, students are analyzing data set of brightness from a digital grayscale photograph. They calculate measures of center and variability, and then they discuss how AI perceives and processes visual data. So it really connects to the understanding of image recognition. So here is let me make sure this is large enough so everybody can see. Again, if you're already in a Nearpod, you can open it yourself. You can even download this right here, this PDF. So this is a practice of modeling of mathematics. In the United States, it's a grade 6 curriculum on statistics where students have to summarize, describe a numerical data set in relation to the context. And in AI, we're looking at perception. In other words, how AI translates sensory data into data structure and perceive them. So in this activity, students are given a digital gray image of stairs. And this is a pixelated conversion of this image to pixelated image in a grayscale that AI would do. And then as students explained that actually in that scale, each shade of gray is assigned a particular number. So it really becomes a numerical data set. That's how AI converts data, and that explanation is given. And then the lesson is about finding variability of this data set, measures of central tendency like mean, median, mode, range of values, and then having students to compare those different measures of center and variability to decide like what could be a threshold for the AI to recognize this as stairs, or to distinguish between the light areas and shaded areas. So we're making connections between image processing here and idea of perception, but we're doing it within the context of a regular mathematics standards-based classroom. And so students learn about AI concepts while they're learning about particular statistical concepts. Now let's take a look at elementary school language arts lesson, identifying words of multiple meanings. In this lesson, we design a board game for the students where they identify meaning of words based on contextual clues that could be sentences or pictures, and then they relate that to the AI nature of learning. So let's take a look at this particular lesson. So in this lesson, the whole point is that in language arts, this is a grade 4 in the United States curriculum. The students, sometimes the same words could mean different things. So the students have to figure out what word really means and which word goes in the sentence based on sentences, but it also could be a picture card, right? So we are talking about like kind of a board game, it could be, or just card game, where students have to create, like use the sentence cards and then figure out words like fan, shed, mold, fence, scale, trunk change, just examples of those words that have more than one meaning. And notice like here, for example, I brought back a beautiful fan from my trip to Japan. Students have to find a right picture which fits here, right? Or I am a big fan of tennis. That would be a very different, same word, very different meaning. And then with the teacher, like, so we provide examples here how teachers can organize student gaming in this case, and then really discuss AI connections, that what students are doing, they're data labeling. And they data labeling in relation to the context, exactly how AI did, using like training data sets to then interpret some unknown data. We introduce things like grounded truth, which is a label, right? And so this is another example of a lesson. This is the second lesson what I showed you today, where we don't use technology, we don't use actual AI, I mean technology, to introduce AI concept to the students. Earlier today, Ms. Trina was talking about that differences in economic opportunities, right, in Indonesia compared to the United States. Well, what I'm trying to show here, like in the United States, we have huge diversity. We have very different areas. We have areas where students don't have access to technology or don't have access to stable technology. These two lessons show you how you can still develop AI literacy and bring AI literacy into the classroom without any technology. And I think like unplugged AI literacy. And I think that is really important. Let's take a look at social studies lesson. So in this social studies lesson, we're really focusing on natural interaction. We want students to learn about large language models and how they work in the context of learning about voter registration in political parties. This is an example where students do use AI large language model. And I wanted to make sure that you see example of where I use AI-powered chatbots to train AI chatbot as a voting person of a particular like voter, and for students to simulate conversations with the voters. And so in this particular lesson, students learn about different viewpoints of different parties' platforms, discuss the role of political parties in democracy and the importance of informed voting. Then we introduce AI chatbot to the students, and we provide them with sample prompts that the students can enter into a chatbot in order to simulate conversation of the person with a voter and discuss particular like platform issues. So that's an example where students learn about natural interaction using AI tools while they're learning about party systems, in our case, in the United States. So, so the students create, like in this case, we suggest like 4 different persona for AI for the voters, and then conversations are going to happen through the chatbot communication. The final lesson is a science lesson. It's a high school lesson, which examines data sets that represent genetic variations. And we talk about genetic diversity, and then discuss ethical implications of using AI in genetic variations. So this is, let me go open this particular document to show you very briefly again. So here we are looking about science engineering practices on obtaining, evaluating, communicating information. And we also, the students also focusing on natural selection and adaptation as the biology topic, and societal impact. So in this lesson, it's really like for teachers to provide data sets representing genetic variations. We provide some resources for the teachers where those data sets can be taken from. And students are working with those data sets to identify patterns. Like they graph those data, they identify patterns, they look at the changes in frequencies of alleles over generations, predict potential future genetic diversity. And then we want students to actually discuss how AI might influence that genetic variations. And there are different types of that process, like there's a natural process, but there is AI augmented selective breeding. We now have AI assisted gene editing. So the students will be provided some reading about that. And then it's a discussion where we want students to develop ethical awareness of their role in AI and how it can impact and influence those genetic variations if we're using this technology. So that gives you another example of teaching standards-based curriculum while bringing AI literacy into the curriculum. So, in order to do that, we need to have educators who actually can do it, right? We need to have AI literate educators. That's why we developed a course, which we already tested 3 times in 3 different countries and continue testing it. We call it AI Literacy for Educators. So the course objective is to provide the students, pre-service teachers, with exploration of AI, comprehensive exploration of AI, and its transformative potential in education. And when I say comprehensive exploration, I do not mean deep expert level, but I mean more of a conceptual level, but across all different big ideas. So, and the course focuses on 2 aspects. One is to develop AI literacy of the educators themselves. So we really go and define core AI concepts. We're looking at what is machine learning, what is natural language processing, what are neural networks, how like these ideas could be relevant in the modern educational context. And then we focus on supporting pedagogical skills development for AI literacy integration so that the students learn about pedagogical framework for AI literacy integration, and they design instructional unit plans, lesson plans that integrate AI literacy concepts into the standards-based curriculum according to pre-service teachers' license level, elementary, middle, high school, whatever disciplinary subject they're preparing to teach. So we developed teacher tools, which we provide as part of this course. It's also provided on a companion website of our book. So the first one is a planning AI literacy integration template, which is modified from understanding by design. So this particular template provides students with opportunities to think about like what are the outcomes they're expecting in terms of subject specific and AI competencies. What do they want students to develop in terms of transfer skills, understandings, essential questions, how like they're going to acquire these skills, concepts, knowledge, what they will know, what they will be skilled at. how do they're going to assess the assessment evidence. They notice that performance task here is not subject or AI literacy specific, but it's integrated. We expect students to integrate AI literacy into the disciplinary subject. The evidence, how they're going to do it, and then learning plan. Very specific steps, like we break down by DCR model at different steps, how they are going to bring it into the classroom and plan it with their own students. So that's one of the tools that we provide. We also develop a whole set of assessment instruments to support teachers. I'm just going to show you two. One is, this particular one is a rubric to how to assess AI literacy within other disciplines, which focuses on 3 aspects of AI literacy in general: knowledge and understanding, skills and abilities, and attitudes and values. And then another one is specifically focusing on AI ethics, and could be used whenever we bring societal impact and ethical issues, which is a rubric for evaluating debate on AI ethics. Here's our course overview, the structure of the course. So in this particular case, this was a 10-week course. It was offered in a winter session, and it was 10 days of 2.5 hours. So you notice it's broken down by AI ideas, but each module here was 2 days, where first day was focusing on AI literacy developing, and the second one was focusing on pedagogical skills development. So more specifically, like if we look at the module structure, right, 2 sessions, each session 2.5 hours per module. During focus 1, we would focus on big ideas, specific big idea and core concepts, and we will include a lot of interactive explorations of various AI tools to illustrate the concept. And then during second session, then we will look at the connections between big idea of AI, like similar to what I showed you examples, and practices within the disciplines, different disciplines, and then analyze lesson ideas and examples for AI literacy integration. And then the students will brainstorm in small groups how to develop lessons and unit plans. Again, like we're practically wrapping up, but let me show you like how it would look like. So this would be like exploration of machine learning algorithms. After students learn about it, they would go to this kind of document. It gives them like discussion, and then each of those is linked. Like, for example, this one is teachable machines, where students learn about supervised learning model through interactive activity. This one is clustering with unsupervised machine learning. So there's another interactive tool where students are able to change number of clusters after they adjust here, and step by step, like go through the particular interactions. And then the last one, it's a Q learning game, which is a reinforcement machine learning algorithms. Again, sorry, right now it's down. But it's something where the students are able to learn about Q learning. And then here's the example, like what students would be analyzed like as a unit plan. So I showed you examples of lesson ideas. This is a full integrated unit plan for middle school language arts unit title, Man versus Machine, examining the power of dynamics. So notice we provided this example to our pre-service teachers with explanations of what's the basis, how to develop the stage 1, what are different language disciplinary objectives, what are core concepts and objectives for AI integration and societal impact, how they establish goals, what essential questions are, how this is completed, and so on. So this gives pre-service teachers example that they could use as a model, and they analyze that, and then so that they can develop their own unit plans. So this is just few examples from what we developed. We just published a book. This is QR code to the current press. This is a link, you can click on it. As far as I know, like the book is already out in the United States, but it will be available early October outside of the United States. So it's also available on Amazon. But in this book, we describe our pedagogical framework in detail. We provide over 40 lesson examples. We provide all those assessment instruments, other tools. So it's a really handbook for the educators to use this framework to bring AI literacy into their classrooms. And at this point, thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to stop sharing at this point, so there are and pass back to Egi.
Thank you. Give us a big hand for Professor Irina. Thank you for the informative and inspirative presentation. That is explaining the best ways to teach students about AI. So based on my notes, he makes 3 important points here. First, what I'm thinking is what to teach. So use the 5 big ideas of AI, like how machine learns and how AI affects society. And the second, how to teach it. Use a creative problem-solving method called design thinking. And the third one is how students learn. Use the methods based on the science and how kids' brain develops. So that goal is to basically help students from kindergarten to high school understand how AI works and how to use it smartly and safely, and not to make them all computer expert. So before we jump to the next session, I have a short question. Can we still have the access for the Nearpod, the link that you gave me for the future?
I will send. So this is like a live presentation, but I'll convert it into self-paced. It will be different link, and I'll share it with Suharto so that he can share with you. And as a matter of fact, you know what? Let me see if I can do it right away, so you can put it in a chat bot.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much.
1 second. Yeah, absolutely. So let me stop this one in order to generate another link. Yeah, Nearpod, since we're using it, it's like a really effective platform because you can interact. So I really like it. And it does have this option for student pace. So this student pace link will be available for the next, let's say, through September 30th.
Yeah.
So I'm putting it in the chat. So anybody who's interested, it will stop being available after September 30th.
Okay, thank you for the information. Now we move on to the question and or discussion. What I mean, okay, for the participants who would like to ask the questions, you can simply drop the question in the chat box or just raise your hand. Use the raise your hand feature on Zoom, and please don't forget to turn on the camera and also turn on the microphone. Please, is there any? Okay, so while waiting the participants to ask the questions, actually, I have an interesting point of view or perspective about your presentation, Professor Irina. So what I'm thinking is, what are some of the most effective or surprising ways you have seen AI applied in non-STEM classroom? Because what I'm thinking is, because now I like doing exercise like running, is it possible to be applied in physical education lesson, for example, for running lesson? Because what I'm thinking is, in the perception, students, for example, use the smartwatch or phone app, use AI to track their running, for example, and then for learning, they can learn how the eye sees their speed and etc. And then for the representation or reasoning, the AI app show them charts of their pace throughout the run and etc. So what do you think, Professor Irina?
So okay, so like again, like if we talk about how to use AI in education, right? In physical education, absolutely. The AI can learn from the data that, like, for example, if students have tracking devices like, Fitbit or a smart watch, right, that tracks various aspects of their running, like it could track like number of steps or like how many calories, right? The AI could use this data to suggest more effective ways of like reaching a goal, or more based on the patterns, or suggest the specific patterns that they observe from the data and trends. So the in a physical education and health, like in our country, it's taught together, physical education and health, then there may be really interesting observations about the health and exercises and relationship between health and exercise that students learn about anyway, but in this case, it will be from trends and the patterns that observed from a specific data. If we're talking about integrating AI literacy in physical education, in other words, how we can have a physical education at the same time have students developing understanding of how AI works. That may be a little bit more tricky because in this case, we want students to find parallels between what they do in physical education and what AI does. But it's still possible because, again, if we are asking students to observe, let's say, body temperature when they are doing physical exercise, and students collect that data, we can say that's not how AI does. It looks at the data and makes predictions.
Okay, so we have some opinion about that. So what I'm thinking is, so PE isn't just about running anymore, because using AI, a running lesson or other lesson can also teach students how you use technology, understand the data gives to them, and critically think about its role in sport, for example, and their lives. It makes them smarter and more responsible as a digital citizens. Okay, so is there anyone who would like to raise question? Yes, Suardo, the screen is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, Prof. Irina in US. Can you hear me? Sorry,
Yes.
can you hear me? Okay, so I have a question. So this is the experience that I feel when I teaching someone how to use AI. So I'm the person that learn before the AI era. For example, for I learn statistics, I learn scientific writing, and now when the AI come, there is something like a gap between the knowledge. So before we use AI, we actually have to know the foundation of the knowledge first, so we can bridge the knowledge and use the AI as a tool to help us. However, what happened now? People or student doesn't want to learn the knowledge, they jump to the AI, and there is a lack of the validation inside of the how to learn the context of knowledge. That is there any something like effective way to bridge that gap knowledge into curriculum?
All right, that's a very good question. Well, the challenge, as you said, like the challenge is that the students now trying to circumvent learning, right, by just finding answers or finding everything, like let AI write for them, let AI find answers. But the problem is that not students do not understand how AI works, and that's why they're not using it effectively. So I think that the AI technology developed so fast that we don't yet understand its capacities or its dangers, right? And already using it. AI literacy is a skill that is critical for students to use it smartly and understand where they need to learn something and when AI can be supporting and in which ways AI can support their learning rather than take that learning away. But it's like with any technology, like we can go back and say, well, computers, right? Or even further back, TVs, videos. At some point, like people were saying, well, students don't need to read books anymore because now they're going to just watch videos. And then when we now understand when it's better to read a book, when it's better to watch a video, or when it's better to use a computer for calculations, or when it's better not to use a computer for calculations, because it's not about calculations, it's about conceptual understanding and so on. So you cannot say to students, you cannot use AI. You want to make sure students understand what AI does. Then they will be able to make decisions about how to use it effectively to help them learn. And I think that's the way we need to be doing that. Like you cannot control whether they're going to use AI at home, right? If they have access to ChatGPT, they're going to go to ChatGPT, and then they get something. But because they don't understand what ChatGPT does, they get some nonsense and they will take it like it's real. we got to teach them what it does. We got to teach them to understand how it works. It's not a Google search. You're not getting facts. You're getting statistical information, which is based on probabilities. And so you cannot trust it. So you need to develop critical thinking skills to evaluate what you're getting, whether it even makes sense. Okay. So I think the answer is AI literacy.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prof. Irina.
Yep. Is there any other participant? Okay, I saw two participants are raising the hand. Can I choose Pak Imam Rahmadi?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Hi, Irina, nice to see you here. Okay, I have you still remember me when we met in Linz.
Yes.
I'm a student of Professor
Hi, Ma'am.
Latiksa. Okay. Maybe let's see from the perspective of teachers, because I believe AI literacy for teachers is more important. That is the first step that we need to concern. So I also recognize that you focus on TPEC, and my question is maybe in the context of teacher education, how we can develop AI literacy for teachers, maybe for Indonesian teachers, from the perspective of TPEC's contextualized to artificial intelligence.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for your question. So, a couple of aspects here. Based on our experience teaching the course, right? We have like opposite, like there are some pre-service teachers who like jump in and just want to use it. Like it's something new and they see value of it. And there are some who really scared of AI, like really scared. So I think using approach where we start with unplugged activities, unplugged, like understanding of what AI is through unplugged activities first can help some of these pre-service teachers to overcome their fear. So they start understanding what is AI before they actually dive into it. So from that perspective, I think that we do need AI literacy courses specific to educators, not just general computer science classes. The second thing here is in terms of TPAC. So TPAC is a knowledge for integration of technology, right? So if we're integrating AI tools, we need to have AI TPAC, right? But in order to integrate AI tools, the teachers need to be AI literate. So it kind of goes back to we need to develop AI literacy, which like we need to have in teacher preparation programs, courses for the teachers to be able to become AI literate. And then we run into a lot of challenges because then you have faculty, right? And faculty is the most conservative people. Like we have like the largest level of we still like at teachers college, we still have faculty that don't like to use computers when teaching, and we now have AI. So just having a single course is not going to do it. I mean, it will be introduction, but like with anything else, you want to integrate AI. You want faculty to use AI responsibly and meaningfully across different disciplines in order for teachers to see that modeling of how AI could be used, in addition to learning about what AI does and what kind of technology it is. Then I think we will start developing AI literate educators who can then bring it to the classroom. So yeah, so you may there are actually now like there's quite a few studies on AI TPAC for like how to integrate like knowledge for developing knowledge of AI tools integration. But I think that's too early. We need to start with AI literacy and only then go into integration of AI itself. Like starting with AI education before AI in education. There is a question in the chat, I believe.
Thank you for sharing.
Maybe not.
Only some comments that respond to the link given by you.
Okay.
All right. I'll give two more opportunities for the two participants. Is there anyone? Okay, Khalid.
Okay.
Okay,
Mas-
Tian, you will be the last. Thank you. So Khalid, the screen is yours.
All right, thank you for this opportunity. Nice to meet you, Professor Irina. I am Khalid. I am postgraduate student for Arabic language education. I have some question about implementation of AI in education, language education especially. So I've been practice teaching Arabic language using AI, and it's very helpful. For example, to make sample conversation, I just need to tweak it a little, then give it to student to practice. And other way to use AI is to mark student tasks easily and more efficient than before. So I have a concern that some time in the future that people or teacher especially might be reliant or dependent to AI, just like in the past when textbooks were developed, then later there's some kind of teacher that called textbook teacher who are really dependent on textbook to teach. What I'm concerned is there might be a chance in the future some teacher would be a AI teacher. So my question is, how or what is the sweet spots or the balanced way to apply AI in teaching so we are not dependent on it, but still we make full use of AI in our teaching and for our students too. Thank you.
Thank you, Khalid, for your question. Okay, so, well, as you mentioned, whenever new technology, whether it's a textbook or anything else introduced, we will always have teachers who are only like dependent on that, and we will have teachers who are more creative or more critical about various resources. So we cannot solve it for everyone, right? In my view, well, the AI tools can provide teachers with possibility to have a collaborator, to have like like a springboard for discussions, for brainstorming. But the critical piece here is that the AI never provides a final answer. It's about communication, iteratively changing, and that will require, of course, prompt engineering skills, because if we're talking about large language models. So there are a lot of ways where AI is very effective, like a brainstorming, summarizing, right? Like helping you to think out of the box, because it may just have something which leads you to a new idea that you may not have thought about, right? But you're absolutely right. There is a risk of over-reliance and even a lack of critical thinking, right, skills, because then the people start relying too much on it. However, AI will never replace humans because AI cannot be empathetic, and AI cannot and will never be able. It's a machine. It's based on algorithms. It doesn't have a soul. So, and the teacher is a person who is much more than just teaching the content. You are much more to your students than just Arabic language. Because there is a lot more going on in the classroom, and that's where that the framework we're talking about, science of learning and development, right? About that inclusiveness, about empathy, about support and respect. AI will never be able to do that. So, how do we help teachers not to rely too much? Well, educating them, letting them understand what are the best ways to use of AI, being critical of AI, like really critical evaluation of what you get from AI, understanding that there is a lot of bias built in, and the bias comes at a lot of different levels, like in data training data sets, in algorithms that are developed by humans, in interpretation of what AI provides. And I think that should help people who want to be a good teacher. But if you have a teacher who just doesn't want to do anything, nothing we can do.
Okay.
Here is a Trina's question here in chat.
Oh, yeah, yes. I missed that. I'm sorry. So let me read the questions from Ibu Trina. So she realized that the ethical issues included in the reflection stage instead of initial stage or design. What is the philosophical issue behind that?
Okay, so I want to emphasize that ethical issues are across the whole framework. We didn't get into a lot of details. I only focused on like major components. But even when students define problems and empathize, they are considering ethical issues. When they critically evaluate AI applications in the very beginning, they are looking at the ethical issues and bias issues. So our focus is on having ethical aspects of inclusivity, privacy, aspects of bias are considered throughout the whole process whenever we are looking at AI from all different perspectives. It's just in a reflect stage, the very last stage, that reflection part, the ethical issues, or let's say not only ethical issues, but just responsible use of AI becomes the core in the center, but they are across all aspects of the framework.
Okay. Do we still have someone who's going to ask question? Oh, Dian. I think I saw Dian.
Yes, thank you, Mas Egi. Thank you, Prof. Irina, for the insightful sharing. I'm sorry due to connection, I will not open my camera.
No
And
worries.
I have a question, Professor. Considering Indonesia's diverse teacher competencies and also existing some blank spots, what is the most practical first step an educator without prior AI experience can take to integrate AI literacy into their teaching? Thank you, Prof. Irina.
Well, thank you for your question. So in order to integrate AI literacy, I think the first step is to just learn at a conceptual level what AI does and what those big ideas about AI, right? What exactly, what does it mean? And I think that trying to think, okay, so if this idea, like where exactly, what kind of practices am I doing like in my discipline, what I'm teaching, or I want my students to develop, right, skills, where this connects, where I can find analogy. I think that analogies is the best way to start without actually bringing an AI tool that may be very complex to understand, but finding a simple analogy of what students are already doing in your classroom and the way you're already teaching particular disciplines, and bring those AI concepts by analogy, saying, look, you're doing this. This is exactly how AI works at a simple level. I think it also reduces like this pressure for a teacher who already has a lot in the curriculum, right? You don't have room to add on a whole new like aspects, right? So finding those connections to your discipline's topics, to your discipline's practices, to the skills that are necessary in your disciplines, to what AI does in a simple level and as simple as possible to help students understand what AI does and how it works, and only then bringing AI tools when they're already more comfortable and understanding, because you want them to use AI with understanding and responsibly.
Thank you, Professor Irina, for the answer. And I believe now is around 11 p.m. on your location. So is it possible for you to answer the question from the chat, or we can
Sure. No, yeah,
have
there is. I think there's like two more questions, three more questions.
Two more.
Okay, let's stop on that third one. Let me see. Earlier you explained that we must first start fostering AI education, particularly among teachers, while the use of AI in education is rapidly growing. What strategies could be employed? Well, there's also one more. I think I missed one question about government. Okay, first of all, okay, so that question. We do not have national or federal regulations on the AI use. United States education is built on the idea of autonomy. So you may have very different policies even in the same city, like New York. So, however, there are some recommendations, right? Right now, there is quite a lot of different policies. Like each university has its own policy, but UNESCO is used. UNESCO AI policy is used as kind of a basic, like a blueprint to build upon. But every organization currently is working on its own regulations, so it is at institutional discretion. So, use of AI in education rapidly, what strategies could be employed? I can tell you what our college does, right? As soon as generative AI came into place, like in 2022, we have a Digital Futures Institute at the college, which immediately started to provide workshops for faculty who wanted to use AI and developing like some kind of materials or guidelines for using AI in the classroom. So I think it is important because AI growth is so rapid and because it's like hundreds of new tools appear every day. It is really important for people to understand what exactly AI does. And there are besides teacher preparation courses, besides like a formal college level courses, we have professional communities that have like a groups by interest, right? There are international societies that have listservs, right? Or professional development resources online. So I think it's about establishing resources for teachers that are accessible, where teachers can learn on their own and can find specific resources for integration of AI tools in the classroom, for learning how to use them effectively. And we don't need to wait for every college to integrate the course, right? Like offer course. There are already quite a lot of resources, and just making sure that these are credible sources. Like you want to make sure like who developed it, like is that a credible organization or university or company, so that you're learning something that really is meaningful and correct. And I think that would be the fastest way to get everybody's on board to understand basic ideas. And let's see. Before the first question about computational thinking. Well, computational thinking itself is a very important skill, right, for automation. However, I do not think that in order to understand basic principles of AI, you need to have computational thinking. I think just having a logical mind and reasoning skills is enough. You do need computational thinking if you want to go into more depth, like really understanding of algorithms and how they work. But if you understand the basis of those algorithms by analogies, that's enough to be able to use it meaningfully, those tools. And then we have libraries and librarians. Well, sure. I mean, everyone helps. Everyone can help, right? Like if libraries become AI-literate and can provide resources and help teachers to select resources, digital resources, for example, or other like print resources to learn about AI, that would be great. It's like we all need to help each other. So I don't think we need to have any specific posts, or librarians or this. Everyone, colleagues, you may have a colleague that already is deeply into AI, understands better, and just conversation with that colleague and working together and collaborating would be helpful to a teacher for whom it's new and they are still scared and uncertain about how to use it or whether to use it.
Thank you so much
I hope I answered the questions.
Yes, I think so. So what can I imagine if school environment has the ability of AI literacy skill, so the school can already support each other, the system, to support the education. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the time now is around 10 a.m. in my location, and of course 11 p.m. in Professor Irina location. We have reached at the end of our event. On behalf of the organizers, would like to extend our deepest gratitude again to Dr. Trina Fizzanty for her opening remarks, and especially to Professor Irina for generously sharing the invaluable knowledge and the time with us. So before we ending the session, we would like to give you the online certificate. Let me share it to everyone. Is it visible? So perhaps later on, Suharto will send it the certificate to your email. Again, please give a big hands to our distinguished speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Irina.
And as you noticed, my presentation link was posted. It's valid through September 30th. There is my email. If you have question, burning question you want to ask, please feel free to email me.
Yeah, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, have a great day.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Prof. Irina.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So we also thank you to our participants for joining us today. We hope the insights you gained this morning will be beneficial and inspiring. So I'm Aggie, and I will be signing off. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mas Egi, makasih ya.
Oke, sama-sama. Silakan Bapak Ibu, ini belum saya off-kan, maksudnya recordingnya saya off-kan dulu. Silakan Bapak Ibu, kita masih di sini siap ada feature AI companion. Kalau Bapak Ibu ada yang tadi tertinggal presentasinya, kita masih bisa memanfaatkannya. Terutama yang join dari awal, bisa diklik saja AI companion-nya, nanti bisa mendapatkan summary-nya. Kalau kita sudah leave, nanti AI company-nya sudah tidak bisa dipakai. Jadi mungkin kita akan hold sampai mungkin 5 menit. Silakan Bapak Ibu sekalian. Yang ingin mendapatkan ringkasannya, silakan klik di fitur AI component-nya. Demikian. Terima kasih.
Boleh di-share materinya nggak, Mas?
Materinya ada di link.
Di link ya?
Ya, nanti tapi ya.
Agak susah buka linknya ini.
Memang. Jadi itu nanti ada kebijakan dari Prof-nya. Jadi karena ini available sampai tanggal 30 September. Jadi saya kurang tahu bisa di-download atau tidak. Kalau bisa download silakan download. Kalau tidak mungkin karena ada masa expired date-nya.
Oke. Sepertinya tidak bisa di-download. Saya berharap bisa di-download gitu maksudnya.
Oh ya,
izin
kan
Mas Egi. Ya.
Iya.
Kelihatannya tidak.
Gimana?
Izin Mas Egi, tadi kalau di report memang tidak bisa di-download, tapi tadi pesannya Prof Irina katanya dia akan ngasih yang single independent presentation, nanti bentuknya file. Jadi saya akan coba komunikasikan supaya dapat, nanti kalau misalnya ada nanti akan bisa
Baik.
di
Ya, kita
grup
kan
atau di manalah nanti di sosial media.
Ya, baik.
Ya.
Terima kasih. Karena kan sekali lagi itu kan mungkin privacy
Itu aja sih.
Jadi
Ya, betul.
ada copyright dan lain-lain.
Ya.
Jadi kita nanti dulu tunggu dari Mas Suharto. Yang jelas kalau Ibu mau coba untuk melihat sementara, bisa lihat di linknya tadi. Nanti memang agak lama prosesnya untuk membuka dan menutupnya. Tapi kalau misalnya saran saya sih, jika melihat ada maksudnya informasi yang penting, mungkin bisa langsung di screenshot aja sih. Memang nggak bisa diedit, tapi setidaknya kita punya backup untuk screenshot seperti itu.
Oke, makasih Mas.
Sama-sama Ibu Eka.
Ya. Kegiatan ini akan merupakan kegiatan yang ada terus-menerus atau hanya ad hoc seperti ini?
Baik Ibu. Jadi kami di Pusat Riset Pendidikan itu biasanya ada beberapa kali sharing session Ibu yang kami publish di Instagram kami. Jadi silakan kalau misalnya ada Instagram, boleh follow di Instagram kami di Pusat PR Pendidikan, Pusat Riset Pendidikan. Di sana biasanya kami memberikan informasi terkait sharing session. Topiknya macam-macam sih Bu. Jadi ini kebetulan pagi hari ini kita sharing sessionnya mengenai AI dalam pembelajaran untuk mengintegrasikan teknologi AI ke dalam beberapa mata pelajaran. Sebelumnya kita juga ada mengenai tentang pembelajaran di sekolah, mungkin sekolah dasar, kemudian atau anak kebutuhan khusus dan lain-lain, Bu. Jadi kita macam-macam karena kita di Pusat Riset Pendidikan memiliki beberapa kelompok riset itu.
Oke, makasih. Oh ya, Mas Egi, ada riset-riset yang bisa dikerjasamakan nggak
Untuk riset
dengan perguruan
yang
tinggi?
bisa ada Bu, jadi nanti mungkin lebih jelasnya mungkin bisa dikontak dengan Pak Koordinator kami ya Bu. Mohon izin Ibu dari jurusan apa ya Bu?
Dari Magister Teknologi Pendidikan, Pak.
Ya, Magister Teknologi Pendidikan. Ada Bu. Jadi kalau itu mungkin bisa langsung dengan kami Bu, dengan saya Bu, karena saya ada di kelompok riset yang menangani tersebut. Kalau boleh tahu Ibu dari kampus mana Bu, saya boleh nanti saya akan share nomor HP saya ke Ibu Eka mungkin kalau berkenan
Ya,
nanti kita bisa kontak lebih lanjut.
ya. Saya sudah mengisi daftar hadir. Saya
Baik.
dari Universitas Islam Asy-Syafi'iyah.
Baik Bu.
Iya.
Jadi nama saya Eki Bu, saya tentukan nomor HP saya.
Iya. Empat lima enam empat tiga satu empat enam. Terima kasih Mas Egi.
Sama-sama Ibu.
Mas Egi. Mas Egi.
Ya Mbak, sudah cukup Mbak, di end aja Mbak, teman-teman.
Ya,
Kayaknya
saya
sudah.
end ya. Mau ada
Ya,
next rapat lagi. Terima
ya,
kasih.
ya sama-sama. Terima kasih.